What's up, 49er fans? I'm Jason Aponte. Kirk Cousins rumors, Mac Jones rumors. We're going to review the latest PFF mock draft. All of it. Stay tuned. Welcome, everybody. Let's go, Niners. My name is Jason Aponte. What's up, 49er fans? This is 49ers Afternoon Report. I'm Jason Aponte. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. A lot of content coming down the pipe this week. Some of it not so interesting because the 49ers and the NFL seem to be at a standstill, but there's always content to talk about when there's the 49ers, especially when it comes to 49ers quarterbacks. And Mike Florio didn't necessarily put this report out there, but it has somehow resurfaced. But it was a report that was out there during the combine. And I want to say this. I understand your feelings towards Mike Florio. I understand that you believe that he continues to try to drum up controversy in the 49er world, all of those things. I think that that's not necessarily a bad way to look at it. But I do want to let you know that right now on April 4th, a lot of the people that do content yesterday. Hey, Big Dez, what's up, bro? I'm chilling today. I promise I'm chilling today. A lot of the content that is being put out there right now is because so many analysts aren't into the draft process. They aren't into evaluating prospects. They're not into what's going on at the draft. So you're in a little bit of a dead period in which content is going to resurface. And that's kind of what's happening right now with Florio and this whole Cousins to the Niners stuff. So let's do the timeline. While in Indianapolis, there was certainly a lot of talk, when you're listening to people get drunk and you're standing around them about Kirk Cousins and the 49ers. Well, where does this all surface from? I think we all know Kirk Cousins and Kyle Shanahan's affinity for each other. Maybe not for each other. Kyle certainly for Kirk. And you have to remember the timeline. So let's go back to the combine. John Lynch goes to the podium and says, we're not going to know what's going on with Brock Purdy until we get in there. So for me, what that statement signifies is they still believe that full-on Tommy John was a possibility. Now, everybody has the most optimistic timeline and what they want to happen. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. You always want the best thing to happen. Rarely is anything, especially the quarterback position for the 49ers, in a perfect world. But there still was that kind of lingering feeling that there was swelling. He had to push back the surgery and nobody knows. So that's still there. And then remember, the combine is the NFL world converging in a place that usually doesn't happen until the owners' meetings. So of course there's going to be conversation because of Kyle's love for Kirk and Brock Purdy's unknown timeline. So I want to say that. Why I want to say that is because this report is from the combine. It's from a time when all of these things were up in the air. Now, what does discussions mean? Does it mean the 49ers were talking to the Vikings and saying, we're offering this, this, and this, we need to get Kirk? No, I don't think that. I don't think that there was anything wrong with what Florio said, because the buzz around the 49ers at the combine was very much, there is two things going on. They don't know what's going on with Brock Purdy, and Kirk Cousins is going to be available next year one way or another based on his contract, right? It's a 2-year guaranteed deal. Next year, he's free. So what I want to say is all of the timeline matches up when it comes to just talking, just speaking about this. Now it's done now because now we have the optimistic timeline of Brock Purdy, and we can be done with this conversation after today because we can put it all to bed now that we have the timeline. But don't think for 1 second that next year this conversation won't come back up because of the content, because of the clicks that it draws, because of the connection between the two of them. So why am I saying all this? It's just more to put people at ease. I think you should expect this over and over as long as the Kirk Cousins and Kyle Shanahan love affair is something that everybody knows. And if, God forbid, the 49ers don't get things done, winning a Super Bowl, then this will continue. And it will be a conversation until the 49ers finally find their guy, whoever that is, right? Like a guy, their guy, franchise guy. We are set for 10 years. We love this guy. And as of right now on April 4th, that guy is still not here. And it hasn't been this entire time during Kyle Shanahan's time. You found guys who have been successful. You have found guys who have won you games. You haven't found your guy. And as long as those questions persist, as long as everyone knows how Kyle feels about Kirk, I fear this discussion won't go anywhere. My message is don't look too far into it because the timeline does match up from where Florio was talking about it. Because at the combine, they didn't know what was going to happen with Brock Purdy. Now we know. I think we can put that to bed for this year. So let's put a button on it. And I think that's the best way to look at this. I think, again, next year, I don't know what's going to happen this year, but I don't think that this will ever stop until the 49ers definitively have their guy. And that's the one thing that they've been searching for. I think that's what we all want. I don't care who the guy is. I really do not care who the guy is. I just want a guy. And I want the guy. And if Brock's the answer, great. If Trey's the answer, great. If Darnold's the answer, great. I just want to go into one offseason without having to try to figure out who it is. You thought you had it with Jimmy? Nope. You got to move on from him. I want the one guy who I know I can set my watch to. I look at the Cincinnati Bengals. I look at the Kansas City Chiefs. I look at the Buffalo Bills. I look at the Los Angeles Chargers. I look at even the Dallas Cowboys. I want a guy. And I want the guy that will be here for a long time. And we still haven't figured that out yet. We just have not figured that out. Everything that everybody is trying to figure out about the guy is guessing. And I want to go into one offseason where we're not guessing. Is that too much to ask? Please. 7 minutes in. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. Talking 49ers quarterback position as usual. But I just wanted to kind of put this Kirk Cousins things to bed. It's just done. Brock, Trey, Darnold. One of those guys is going to be your guy this year. And the 49ers shouldn't trade for Kirk Cousins because I think one of those three guys can definitively win you games because of the coaching, because of the roster, because of the weapons, because of guys running wide open. One of these three guys will be it. Now, we can get to a point where we start talking about, well, you paid for this guy, you traded up for this guy. It doesn't matter. Draft position doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter. The best guy is going to play, and may the best man win. And I think that's the best way to look at this. So, Ace Bruh says, would you trade for Mac? Just a question. Ace Bruh, I would not, because that is a super hindsight trying to correct your mistake question, like answer. And let me explain. I'm going to say this again, and I've said it multiple times, but hopefully I can articulate it in a way where it comes off normal, level-headed. But the 49ers miscalculated what they did when they went to pick 3 for the draft pick. What I mean by that is not that they misevaluated the prospect, although maybe you did. I'm not ready to go there yet. But you misevaluated your timeline. You misevaluated where your team was and where this young man was. So the 49ers draft a project quarterback, even though the buzz when the 49ers drafted him was he was the most ready to go. But it was hard to see that because he had so little reps. The 49ers drafted a guy who needed reps, who needed to take bumps and bruises on a win-now roster. And the first year's plan was to go home with Jimmy Garoppolo for a year. And Kyle Shanahan and this organization, they banked on a year jump from Trey Lance because that was the plan. Jimmy Garoppolo, win-now team, continue to go, made the NFC Championship. We know how that ended. Next year, you go into it with Trey Lance. Training camp was, for lack of a better word, and I was there every single day, inconsistent at best. There was those flash plays where you look and you say, there it is. There were those simple throws that at times you just said, okay, the kid just needs to keep working. I'm not certain that this team was fully invested in the idea of going through those bumps and bruises last year with Trey Lance. Now, obviously, after the injury, you have no choice at this point. You have no choice. You go to Jimmy Garoppolo. And now you kind of table that discussion because Trey Lance unfortunately broke his ankle. So now you have a team that starts to win again and they get to the NFC title again, even after Jimmy Garoppolo is injured because of how well Brock Purdy played. But the timeline doesn't match now. And now you're in year 3 of Trey Lance. And now you realize with this roster that you have been so close. You are so close. You've added Christian McCaffrey to go all in. Can you kick away games? Can you kick away a season in the name of development? And I think the 49ers can't. And the 49ers are telling you that they won't. Unless Trey Lance proves everyone wrong and takes another jump. They're hedging their bets. They hedged their bets when they brought Jimmy Garoppolo back. They continue to tell you that over and over about this. So many people told me, and I told you, the 49ers are the best position for a quarterback to land, especially this quarterback, the coaching, the weapons. I think this was probably the worst because what he needed to do was get reps from the start, go through his bumps and bruises, take all the time that he needed for his development, because usually when you draft in the top 3, you're not a good win now football team. And the San Francisco 49ers were. They just went through a season in 2020 when the entire roster was injured. So for me, this was a miscalculation on the 49ers organization part. Kyle believed he could tightrope his development while trying to bring along a win now team. And I think that's where your miscalculation is. At the end of the day, the only situation that we have right now is this team going forward. You have Trey Lance being able to have minicamp, OTAs, training camp for however long it takes Brock Purdy to come back, to at least show this organization that he is taking steps in the right direction. If he's not, and Brock is healthy, then it goes back to Brock. If he can't beat out Sam Darnold, you've got a bigger issue than you've ever thought. But this whole situation feels like a miscalculation, and it feels like the 49ers overestimated what they were able to do and now are too far into this now. And we're just at a position where it's like, well, the best man can win. Imagine telling that to the 3rd overall pick, in which at the owners' meetings, Kyle Shanahan said, well, there was a reason Sam Darnold was drafted with the 3rd overall pick. Why not is there a reason Trey Lance was drafted with the 3rd overall pick? Here we are. Almost 15 minutes in. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. A lot of content coming down the pipe. We're obviously talking 49ers quarterback position, which is the biggest thing. But at the same time, I do feel that way about Trey Lance. I do feel that he was put in a no-win situation. I do feel that this organization didn't realize the patience that they needed to have while realizing this is a results-driven business, and you do have a win-now team. It's funny. There was a tweet that came out today about the team with the most likely percentage to make the playoffs. And the 49ers were number 1 by a lot. And they still don't have a quarterback who is able-bodied, only Sam Darnold. I think that speaks to how loaded this roster is, how they build their roster, and they still have a draft to fill in some holes. So all that to say, the best player should play. Doesn't matter who it is. My contention with the whole Sam Darnold thing is that there's been a large shift in the discourse around him, because now people are like, well, maybe he should get a shot. Last year, you didn't want anything to do with him. And a lot of people say, well, you can't hand Trey Lance a job. Seems like you're handing Sam Darnold first team reps, however they get divided up, 99-1, 50-50, 45-35, whatever. Seems like you're handing them to him because of a 6-game sample size. That's it. That's all I have to say about this at the end of the day. So just wanted to talk about that. Kirk Cousins isn't coming. I feel bad for Trey Lance. May the best man win. The 49ers have a win now roster, and hopefully one of these guys can prove themselves to be the guy, because that's all we want at the end of the day. The 49ers have been searching for their guy since Steve Young. and that's insane to say. But either way, let's talk about this 3-round mock draft that came out from Mike Renner at PFF. Again, I've talked to you guys about the way that I review these mock drafts, and it's very interesting to go through this exercise because this NFL-centric analysts who don't necessarily follow the 49ers fully, meaning you have a grasp on kind of what's happening here, but at times you don't necessarily have a grasp on what the 49ers are trying to do because you forget that they wanted a leap from Drake Jackson and they believe in a rotation in certain spots. And that's fine because it's hard for you to know everything about all 32 teams. If you do, God bless you. You're putting in a ton of work, and I think we all aspire to do that. But I do think it's great to kind of go through other people's thoughts because, one, I like seeing where you think this roster is. I also like being handed new players to evaluate. When I look at a mock draft, I don't read what people say. I say, okay, let me go look him up. Let me go take a look. And then I go look him up and I see what I see. And organically, I can come to a conclusion. I have no bias. I don't know the player. I'll be honest with you. I don't watch college football until draft time at all. And then I go back and I watch because imagine being able to tell your family, hey, I can't talk to you on Saturdays and Sundays. It's not going to happen, right? Like I still have to do stuff. Saturday's my day to do like family time stuff. So I love doing this because they give you names that you haven't necessarily thought of. And the 49ers right now, every person that's evaluating the 49ers right now is doing it from a perspective of third round down. And I think it was John Lynch that kind of said something to the effect of, there's not really much difference from the third round to first round and in between. There's a lot of great players, and he's kind of reformatted the way he evaluates, and he's going from the bottom up. I think that is refreshing. I don't know how true that is, and I'm not here to refute that because I'll be honest with you, I haven't watched all of these players. But when I get a new name, it's really good to sit back and watch them. And it's good to come to your own conclusion organically. Like it's the same way that I have draft crushes now on Will Mallory and Eli Ricks because I never watched them play. And I have no preconceived notions of them. Watching them and then watching them play allows you to get to a space where, oh, wow, I really enjoy this about his game. And no one's pushing you in that direction. No one is sending you in that way with their opinions. And I think that's the best part about this mock draft. But enough about that. So right now, Mike Renner put out a 3-round mock draft that I think you guys can all check out on PFF. Obviously, the 49ers are picking at 99. So obviously, what are the 49ers lacking? What are their holes? Edge, secondary, offensive line. I think everybody can say. I think they're fine a receiver. If they want a receiver pick, that feels like a luxury pick. I would argue that they need a little bit more at cornerback. I would love to see another steady corner be in there. And offensive line, obviously. You're replacing Mike McGlinchey with Colin McKivitz or someone else. John Feliciano is perfect depth. He kind of refills right into that Daniel Brunskill role. And everything else is kind of set. Brendel, Banks, Burford, Trent Williams, you're good. So I would think that this year, the 49ers have less about their offensive line to worry about than we did last year. Last year, that's all we really were worried about was, oh my God, I don't know what Banks is going to do. Well, Burford's taking the first reps. Well, what about Jake Brendel? I think we can kind of set our watch to what they are. You can also bank on a little bit of improvement from all of them. You know what Trent is. It's now just right tackle. So at pick 99, Mike Renner picks Blake Freeland of BYU. And that's a popular sentiment. It's a popular pick. Shout out to Brad Graham. You know that he's going to love this pick. But I want to kind of go through when I watch Blake Freeland what I see. And I think a lot of people would be in agreement with this. And if you're not, that's fine. Let me know in the comments. He's tall, 6'8". He's athletic. He's great in the run game, but he needs a little help in pass protection. Sounds like somebody we know. Now, the difference is Mike McGlinchey was a first-round pick. A pick at 99 with Blake Freeland and having this that you need to develop, it feels like a quality pick because he's plug and play when it comes to the run game. If you were going to continue to be this run-first offense, if Blake Freeland's there, I would argue that if you're going to do a right tackle battle between him and Colton McKivitz, I'm probably putting my money on the youngster. And I know Kyle has a hesitance to sometimes play young guys, but when you look at Aaron Banks, who can argue with that process, but Burford started right away. Jake Brendel, for all intents and purposes, while he's 31, had only started 3 games. Blake Freeland would be an instant plug-and-play guy in the run game. Can get to the second level. Now, obviously, at 6'8", pad issue is a problem. because pad level, you're going to have to get down. You can't. You're 6'8". It's almost impossible. But what I liked about Freeland was that he showed really good instincts in terms of understanding where blitzes are coming from, picking up stunts. And that's going to be huge for him because when you don't have athletic gifts to fall back on, you're going to need football IQ to fall back on. And you're going to have to diagnose things before they happen so you can get to the spot before them. Because if you are a second late, then we're going to see the problem. But I do understand this pick. I really do. And again, I agree with Ace, bro. I don't think he's going to do that. He's going to be there. I don't think he's going to be there either. That's the other part. It's whatever mock draft simulator they're using has him falling here. I feel about the same way about the 102 pick. So remember, the 49ers have 99, 101, 102. But if Blake Freeland is there at 99, the 49ers don't have to move up. I don't see how you can't draft him immediately. So I agree with Ace, bro. I don't think he'll be there. But you have to understand why this pick works, why you should be able to sit there with his development, and why you should have a little bit more patience than you did with Mike McGlinchey, because Mike McGlinchey was drafted in the first round, and you had so many people there that you wanted to have on your team. At 99 in the third round, you're really just hoping that this guy turns into a guy, even though the third round has been known to pull out proven commodities. So that's why Blake Freeland in 99, I think, is an absolute steal if Mike Renner's mock draft comes to fruition. Don't think he'll be there, but hey, I'm just going by what was up on the board. So I pick 101. This was something that I had to watch. Somebody who I had to watch. I'm sorry. Sidney Brown, safety from Illinois. Now, Steve Wilkes is obviously a secondary guy primarily, but given the year-to-year status of Tashawn Gibson, I think this pick makes a lot of sense, especially when I watched him. He felt very versatile. He was a guy who would slide into the slot at times in coverage. He plays with good burst. He profiles as a safety who can be on the field all three downs, linebacker spot, all of those things. The only concern would be his stature. He's 5'10", in covering bigger receivers and just straight on head-on tackling. But again, Tashawn Gibson can give you a straight baseline. He played very well, had 5 interceptions, absolutely deserved to be brought back. But I do think the Sidney Brown pick is a little bit looking into the future. And if we go through the 49ers history, free safety, strong safety, there's always a guy waiting in the wings. And they are ready to go the next time. And who can argue? Look at Hufanga. Jimmy Ward's not there, obviously, but you have a guy in the slot. You were able to fill it with Tashawn Gibson. The 49ers have a plan when it comes to things like that, right? Like, especially a linebacker. Aziz, thank you for everything. You're moving on. We have a guy that we can fill in. Same thing with Banks. Same thing with Burford. So we have to kind of trust the process when it comes to that. But I like this pick because it made me watch Sidney Brown. I think I watched like the Indiana game and a few of like 2 of his other games. I noticed a guy was very versatile, a guy who can trigger fast, and he was playing with great burst. Just will have a little bit of time struggling against bigger slots, bigger tight ends if he is down into cover the slot. So this may be one of those picks that maybe this year doesn't come to fruition, but a year after, if Tashawn Gibson decides to walk away from the 49ers, or even if he plays himself into a bigger bag, which isn't impossible because he's not exactly – I love when people bring up Gibson's age because they make it seem like he's 50 and he's only like 32. So, yeah, you're getting there in terms of football age, but he's not done, right? Like he certainly didn't look like that last year. So I do think he could play himself into another bag, but I do think this is another move that the 49ers are looking into the future for. So, and Justin E says, Isaiah McGuire went to the freaking Raiders in this mock, kill me. So for you guys that don't know, Justin has a good friend or cousin, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, who's a Raiders fan. And they argue all the time about Nick Bosa and Max Crosby. That's what's pretty funny about this. But yeah, I've seen other mocks where Isaiah goes there. And I think a lot of people have had him on the 49ers radar. So keep up a lot, Justin. If they stay there and Isaiah McGuire is there, there's a good chance that they take a shot on that because they do need to fill in that edge rotation a little bit more. Shout out to 49ers Throwback. What's up? Wolf Speed. Jay, do you think Poe would be used as a fullback once Juice's contract is up? I think that's kind of been a popular thought and a popular sentiment with him because you've seen him run routes in that way. I'm not certain. I think it's certainly a possibility, but it's hard to replace what Kyle Juszczyk does in terms of fullback. And I think we all want to see a little bit more from him. But saying that someone would fill in and automatically be there just because they're a bit versatile and replace him and what he does in terms of fitting run angles and helping the offense identify man his own coverages and just being a matchup nightmare when they decide to run him out there as a route. I don't know if I can set that to my watch, even though that's partly one of the possibilities and why they kind of really like Poe. So uh the too long didn't read answer Wolf Speed, I don't know. And I want to normalize saying I don't know when it comes to those things. So all right. Pick 102, which is right after pick 101, has the 49ers addressing something that I've been banging the table for, and that's tight end too. And no disrespect to Ross Dwelly, no disrespect to Charlie Warner. I think we've seen Ross Dwelly. I'm good. Charlie Warner is your blocking tight end, much like Levine Toilolo. Unfortunately, he hasn't developed a receiving role. But pick 102 sees the 49ers take Luke Schoonmaker of Michigan. Now, does he make it to 102? Maybe. Would it be a crazy thing? Would be a bit of a slight surprise in my opinion. But he fits perfectly in a run first now offense. And he can block. The only thing that kind of really concerns me is I see the speed that he could be a seam threat. I see it. But no yards after catch ability, really. And he's not exactly like an extreme route runner. And then production is a huge thing in terms of only one season over 200 receiving yards. Now, did they use him that way? No, that's fair. But I don't see the things that I see when I target and I look at Will Mallory, when I look at Zach Kuntz at times, right? Those are guys that are explosive players. Those are guys that can make things happen that are causing matchup problems. If you want to bring Schoonmaker in here and you want him to be a blocking guy, tight end too, for a little while, and have him take over this role for George Kittle, then he's got to develop. And I think he'll get a year because George Kittle is still that guy. And he's also already 25 years old. Exactly, Peyton. I think that's a great point as well, too. It's not exactly my favorite pick, but I do understand addressing tight end because I want them to address tight end. I want Will Mallory. I want him to be the guy who, if you run four wide, Mallory, Kittle, Debo, and Ayuk, and you have Christian McCaffrey and whoever the quarterback is, that is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Pick your poison. One of those young men will be open. And that's what I think Will Mallory is. And he has great yards after the catch. He rumbles. He wears 85 for God's sakes. Just he was in Miami and they necessarily didn't throw the ball, but he's better than just a seam guy. He can actually run routes very well. For me, the Schoonmaker pick feels like just a little bit like a safe pick in terms of what the fit is for him in a run first offense. And that's where I think Mike Renner was going with it, is that they want to bulk that up. But for me, if you're going to use Schoonmaker right there as a run first guy, then just stick with Charlie Warner and go with someone else at that point. So that's why I kind of want more of a receiving threat. And I know, oh, no block, no rock. Well, that doesn't apply to everybody. That does not apply to everybody. Ross Dwelly can't block, but he'll get out there and run some routes whenever he's asked. Tyler Kroft whipped on a block. 49ers lost an NFC championship on that. I just don't know that always applies. And I think that, again, playing to your player's skill set and putting them in positions to win and also just causing more matchup problems. Whoever the quarterback's going to be, what's the harm in giving him more weapons that make you more versatile and give different looks on offense? And then when you pair that with Kyle Shanahan's play calling, when you pair that with his play design, you really start to get into a point where not only can you play to George Kittle's skill set, Ayuk and Debo, but you're kind of planning for the future. So that's kind of my pushback on this pick. But I am glad to see people addressing this pick at 101, 102, wherever it is, because I do feel like the 49ers should, unless the board plays itself out in a way and they get a hint that they can wait on tight end and they can get somebody. But this is a very deep tight end group. Mallory, Kuntz, Laporta. Laporta's out of their range. That's it. Laporta's gone. There's no way the 49ers are getting him. When you look at those guys, it's going to be down to how the board goes. So that was Mike Renner's mock draft. It was interesting to see the positions he addressed because he did kind of nail offensive tackle, and if Blake Freeland's there, I think that's a home run. Safety is something that, again, I want a cornerback. I want Eli Ricks. I don't think he's going to be there at 99, 101, 102 either. That's somebody that they would have to move up for. But safety and planning for the future, not a bad idea. And Sidney Brown certainly fits that mold, especially under Steve Wilks. The Schoonmaker pick, I'm not in love with it. I'd be shocked if he was there too, because I think a lot of people are higher on him than I am. But at the same time, I do like the positions that are being addressed. I think Mike Renner did a good job of understanding the 49ers needs, understanding their roster construction, and understanding who can have impacts and planning for the future. So I did think this was a good mock draft, and you guys should check it out on PFF. It came out a few hours ago today, and I wrote about it on Niners Nation as well too. So 30 minutes in here, almost 60 people in here. Shout out to you guys. This is 49ers Afternoon Report. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. A lot of content coming down through the week, so let me just grab some water real quick. Okay. I'll open it up for any sort of questions that you guys have. Anything you want to talk about. Doesn't have to be quarterback centric. Doesn't have to be draft centric. Whatever it is that you guys have on your mind, I'm with it. I think we covered a lot of ground. For the people who are tuning in right now that haven't had a chance to watch the Kirk Cousins stuff, I would put to bed. Again, that was a report out of the combine. Brock Purdy's going to be ready to go. Don't worry about that now. All done. We'll probably get back to this conversation though next year. So strap yourself in. Went through this mock draft. I think we're good there as well too. And also, I reiterated my points on top of why I think the miscalculation of Trey Lance is so frustrating. Shout out to Caesar in here. What's up, bro? Juan, appreciate the hard work. Appreciate you. Peyton, have you watched any Corey Trice from Purdue? Can't find an all-22 on him to do the 6'3" long corner. I haven't, and I'll be honest with you. Peyton, I think the thing that people forget about, like, oh, watch the film is I always ask people, well, do you have all 22 film? Because usually how I get it is I have to go into a back alley and it's a guy who's in the shadows smoking a cigarette by himself. And he tells me to dap him up. So he hands it to me and I put it in my pocket and I have to walk away, almost like a drug deal. It's so hard to find. There is no all 22. So when people say, oh, I watched the film, you watch game tape, you watch like game broadcast. You didn't watch all 22 because it's hard to get your hands on that. It's hard. I'm trying everything I know. I'm talking to everybody I know, and it's still hard. So I haven't, but I do like the idea of addressing cornerback, and I think A really does as well too, that you guys can hear. I do love the idea of addressing cornerback because there is a bit of a depth problem after Demo and after Mooney Ward. So do you see the 49ers trading down? Maybe. If they're going to acquire more picks. You have to remember they have 11 picks. I don't think they have 11 spots for people on the roster. And then you have to remember their process is usually undrafted free agents afterwards. So they're going to be adding a little bit more. So it's going to be interesting. For me, that screams 11 picks. You don't have enough room. You still have undrafted free agents. Package some of those and move up. And it depends on, I know what John Lynch said. Well, there's not much difference between, yeah, well, if there's a guy on the board that you really like and you go and you move up for him, you go do it because you have the picks. Just don't trade any of your first or second for next year because I want to scout blue chip talent again. I want to get back into that. So, if they pick Ricks, I may laugh at the pick. But why though, Dawson? You don't like Eli Ricks, man? I mean, I know he transferred from LSU. Is that a little bit of like LSU bias? Because I love what I saw in those last few games from him and Bama, man. I think he's a great cover corner. I think he's a great zone corner. I think he has the ability to play yards off and break on the ball. I think he has great ball skills. I saw a guy that I think could be the best corner in this draft, and he may not be drafted as high as others. So I'm interested to hear what you say, Dawson, because you actually watched him a bunch of LSU. I was only able to get my hands on the last few games that he played at Alabama. So, Chris Royal, thank you for the donation. He says, % chance Lance gets traded by draft night. Ooh. The 49ers would have to know from what's the draft day is the 24th, 27th. So they have 20 days in which after Kyle Shanahan spoke about, we won't know where he's at, Brock Purdy, I'm talking about, after 3 months. The 49ers would have to have concrete evidence that Brock Purdy's fine and he's going to be fine. Or they believe, even without watching Sam Darnold play, that Sam Darnold is going to be the de facto starter in between. Chris, I put this percentage at 5%. 5. Because you always have to give yourself a little wiggle room just in case, because the 49ers are going to do whatever they want. The rumored packages that I see out there for Trey Lance are almost downright laughable. Seriously. To the Titans from Malik Willis. So a project for an even bigger project What? Who's the draft? Who's the trade? And for me, again, you have to have concrete evidence that you know Brock Purdy is going to be fine. And Kyle Shanahan said, 3 months, we'll know. Brock Purdy said, literally, I think it was yesterday, I have boxes I need to check, but the plan is 3 months. 3 months is nowhere near in 20 days. I don't think that there's any way the 49ers make a move on somebody who is cost controlled, who still has that much potential, who still is probably your best option at backup, and you moved heaven and earth for. I don't think that there's a chance you trade him unless you know concrete one or two things. One, that Brock Purdy is going to be fine. And there's a magic doctor out there that can predict this timeline with certainty, not with optimism, with certainty. Or you have given Sam Darnold Michael Jordan's secret stuff from Space Jam, and you know that he's going to be fine, and you know that he's going to play well with this team. I don't think that with any certainty you can say either of those two things. But I still give it a 5% chance because the 49ers don't care what I think, because the 49ers are going to do whatever they want to do. And if they feel like they can fetch something, maybe they will. But I say 5%. I don't think at all that this happens. I really don't. I don't. Let's see. Dawson says, honestly, yeah, most immediately picking 7 when he transferred, but honestly, I just wasn't impressed with him at LSU when he was supposed to be as good as Stingley Jr. Dawson, that's a fair assessment. Fair assessment. I can't speak to that because I didn't watch him at LSU. I watched him as a true junior when he came on from week 7 at Bama, and I watched him be one of the stickier corners that I've been able to watch. And he has shown me a lot of things that I think can be cultivated. Again, year 3, true junior, he has a lot of growing to do as well. I think what a lot of people forget is he didn't run at the combine or anything like that. And he had his pro day in which I hate it, but he boosted his stock. I really do. I think that he did boost his stock. So, Dustin, I respect your opinion because you watched him way more than I did. And that's why I was asking about LSU. So, yeah, I hear you. I like that you actually given me a take as opposed to like something like, well, Alabama never has any good corners or, like something that's a preconceived notion about other players that have nothing to do with another player's ability from that actual year. So I appreciate you, Dawson. Make sure you guys subscribe to Dawson too as well. He does a bunch of LSU content as well too, as well as 49ers stuff. Brad, me? Brad? All right. Let me do my Brad. What is going down, Sourdough Squad? It is the state of the franchise. I'm Brad Grant, joined by Jason Aponte. No, I'm sorry. All right. I think you meant Jason. Jason, do you think Pitt DT, Kalijah Kancey falls at all for being undersized? Yes, probably. I think, again, when we talk about the combine and we talk about how the combine swings discussions about players because of traits and because of things that you kind of point back to with certainty in terms of, well, this player was undersized like this and wasn't exactly successful, or he might just be a one-trick pony, or he may have to have this and this and this go right for him. I definitely think this is a guy who could definitely fall as well too. Let's see. It seems like you guys are liking my Brad. I got to work on my Brad. That was spot on. Just a tad slower in the cadence, and you're spot on. Oh man, I appreciate you guys vibing with me. Almost 40 minutes in. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. 49ers afternoon report, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific time, Monday through Friday. Usually, we did State of the Franchise yesterday, which for anybody who tuned in was a little bit more spicy than normal. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for tapping in. See my guy Ariel in here, Slick68. Shout out to you, Hanif. Jason the Kate is gold. I'm getting there. I got to practice it a little bit more. That was off the cuff. I've never done a Brad impression. I've done Kyle. I've done some other people, but I've never done his. And obviously, nobody's touching the GOAT, Steph Sanchez, where you guys should check out on all 3 of our channels. We did Bully Ball this morning as well, too. Kind of talked about the JT O'Sullivan video, all that stuff, some good stuff on there. And if you prefer to listen on your drive, anywhere that you get the Gold Standard Podcast Network in audio, subscribe there, and that's where you get it. Shout out to Rob Guerrero. Shout out to everybody as well, too. So, look, guys, 40 minutes in. I hear Averly in the background. It sounds like I need to get some chicken McNuggets in the damn oven so I can get her fed. Again, guys, appreciate you all for tapping in. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. We'll be back tomorrow for 49ers Afternoon Report. Appreciate all of you guys for tapping in. It means a lot. And as always, let's go Niners. Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte.